of the State of the Saints podcast. And you're probably wondering to yourself, TJ, why are you whispering right now? Why are you so quiet? Well, apparently, someone felt that I yell a lot on the show and they wanted me to talk quietly. So, to appease that person, I decided to start the show talking really, really quietly. And now that I made that person happy, thank you so much for tuning into the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. And on this edition, we're going to be talking about some of the key players the Saints had coming back to practice. And we're also going to be talking about two key players, two of them, who did not return to practice. And what does this mean for the New Orleans Saints? Well, let's go ahead and get started, man. We talk about some of the key players coming back to practice for the New Orleans Saints. You have Eric McCoy, you have Teron Armstead, two surprises coming back to practice. I didn't expect to see these guys for at least a week or two, but to know that these guys are practicing, it is good news for the New Orleans Saints. But you also have two guys that are very important. Taysom Hill, Deontay Harris did not return to practice, and this stinks, all right, because both of these guys are so important to the New Orleans Saints. We know Taysom Hill is the Swiss Army knife. The Saints, put him in that RPO package, and he delivers. And also you have Deontay Harris, who is arguably one of the best returners in the game, as well as the deep threat for the New Orleans Saints. And he's been doing a really good job at that particular position. So those two guys being out, you're going to have to find ways to try to compensate for the loss of those two gentlemen. So how do you do it, right? Well, number one, it's good to hear that Tre'Quan Smith is back off. He's back off IR. Okay, it's good to hear that, because now that Deontay Harris is out, you know you're going to be leaning on a guy like Tre'Quan to step it up, to serve in that number one, number two, wherever you want to put him in, wide receiver role. And no matter how you feel about Tre'Quan Smith, some people would say that he leaves a lot to be desired. Some people will question his durability, but he is a solid receiver. He does a really good job for the New Orleans Saints, especially on third down. When Michael Thomas was out last year, he really stepped it up. A couple games, the Saints really utilized him well, and he did a really good job. So Tre'Quan Smith coming back at the time when you're going to lose Deontay Harris probably for a game or two is a plus for the New Orleans Saints. So Tre'Quan Smith coming back, his experience that he had with Jameis Winston in the offseason, those two working together, I feel like it's going to pay dividends when he actually comes back. And if he does play in this game versus Seattle, you don't have to worry about, are they going to be on the same page? Also, you're probably going to get somebody off the practice squad, somebody you're going to deactivate. You're probably going to get a guy like Lil Jordan Humphries off the practice squad, a guy who has had that role since he's been with the New Orleans Saints. Since he's come out of the University of Texas, he's been a guy who has been on a practice squad, who has been active, inactive, on, off, activate, deactivate. You know, he's the New Orleans Saints light switch, if you will. Lil Jordan Humphries comes in. He'll make a play or two. I can remember him catching that touchdown late in the fourth quarter versus the Kansas City Chiefs last year. I think it did a lot to his confidence. He's a really solid blocker. The Saints mostly use him when it comes to the toss and the stretch plays when they use Alvin Kamara, because he can block on the outside. But I don't expect to see Lil Jordan Humphries take the world by storm just because he's becoming active in a game, because I'm pretty sure that's the route the Saints are going to go if Deontay Harris can't play. So you're going to need a guy like Tre'Quan Smith to come in right away and be able to be productive. And you're definitely going to need a guy like Callaway to step it up. This is a game where the Saints can actually win some matchups. So, the Seattle Seahawks team, no disrespect to them, but their secondary is not very good. Okay, there's a lot of holes in their defense. This isn't like the legendary Legion of Boom when you had Brandon Browner. I know some people, I say Brandon Browner probably gave him nightmares, but when he was with Seattle, he was really good. It's not like you have Richard Sherman. It's not like you have Byron Maxwell. It's not like you have Earl Thomas. Okay, this is a bunch of guys that's still trying to figure out who they are defensively. So the Saints still can win some of those matchups. So some of these receivers that they actually have could win some of these matchups, but I expect the New Orleans Saints to be able to step it up. Okay, the Saints play really well coming off a bye week, 2 weeks to learn and develop. A game plan for the Seattle Seahawks is huge for the Saints. Geno Smith is not there. Is not a surprise because you actually had an opportunity to watch him play as a starter in the game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you can kind of add a game plan and probably some of the things you probably learned from his stops with the Jets and with the Chargers. So that's definitely going to help you. But these receivers are going to have to step it up. But I am going to say this about these receivers. I'm interested to see if a guy like Kevin White can, be a solid receiver. I mean, the Saints decided to keep him, which was a shock to me and so many members of the Who Dat Nation. I mean, I thought the writing was on the wall when he came in that game versus Jacksonville and he dropped them 2 slants. I thought it was over. I thought like it was a wrap, chunk up the deuce. But the Saints decided to keep him on the practice squad. And I only believe that the New Orleans Saints kept him on the practice squad is because they felt like there was something there. Maybe they felt those 2 drops had a lot to do with his confidence. A guy who has been dealing with injuries throughout his entire career and finally getting an opportunity with a team that is offensively driven. Maybe it was a little bit of a shock to him. Maybe he was a tad bit nervous. So maybe they didn't hold that against him. And maybe the New Orleans Saints feel they can actually fix the issue of confidence in Kevin White. But I would love to see him actually play. And the reason why, it's not like we're watching a bunch of guys who are solidified at the wide receiver position. This isn't like Lance Moore, Robert Meacham, Devin Henderson, and Colston back in the day. It's a bunch of unproven guys who, kind of hot and cold. Okay, so it really can be one of those situations where you need to see what you have at the receiver position. Okay, so why not give a guy like Kevin White an opportunity to be active in the game? Okay, you already know what you got with Lil John Humphreys. If you felt like you had something there, I don't think that he would be inactive as much as he was. Okay, so give guys like Kevin White, give a guy like Quan Baker an opportunity to see what they have. Rather than on special teams, rather than be a play or two. Just activate them to see what you actually have. And if it doesn't pan out, then you already know what you need to do with them. Okay, so it is what it is. All right, but I want to see some of these other guys step up. We know that the Saints are doing a really good job at running the football. Passing the football. The Saints are second to last in passing. But I still feel like the New Orleans Saints are doing a good job, man. All they are trying to do is win football games. I don't understand this whole concept of style points. And it looked like people and members of the Who Dat Nation are looking for style points. They want to see somebody throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like, I don't give about any of that. I don't. All I care about at the end of the game, that the New Orleans Saints have more points than their opponent. It's just as simple as that. I mean, I don't know where you stand, but I don't think that a 70-yard bomb and a 42-6 victory means anything. I feel like it means the same thing as a 24-23 victory, right? It looks impressive, but a win is a win. So that's the way I look at it. So I'm not real big on style points. I just want the Saints to win. And I think the best way for you to win, and the thing about it is, the way you're supposed to win, that's how the Saints are winning. I mean, you limit turnovers and you have more points than your opponent. That's how you win football games. You limit those mistakes. You run the football. You do what you do best, which is running the football right now. And at the end of the game, you have more points than your opponent. So I'm okay with it. Okay, it's not like it's the BCS back in the day. Like the BCS around week 8. Teams used to try to impose their will on their opponent, win by 3 and 4 touchdowns because the computer puts that into consideration. This isn't a BCS system. It's not. It's not even a playoff committee system. This is about wins and losses. So as long as the Saints are winning, I don't have a problem with it. But I want to move on, and I want to talk a little bit about an article that I read. This was from Ralph Malbrough of WWL. You can check out this article on WWLtv.com. You can go to the sports section, and you'll be able to check out Ralph's article here. And the title of his article says, "The Joy of No Expectations for Saints football. Okay, but he starts this article, and I don't want to read like the beginning of it, but I want to kind of paraphrase it. He talks about how he is a Houston Astros fan, and we all know about some of the things that the Houston Astros did, right? You know, they got busted for cheating. So anybody outside of Houston probably wants to see the Astros out of the playoffs or being a terrible baseball team. But, you know, he talks a little bit about that, and he kind of coincides this particular situation you know, to the New Orleans Saints, how the Houston Astros for years, you know, they still were a top team, but they're losing losing their key player on the team most likely next year. And it's probably going to mean that they're going to fall to the bottom, I guess, the bottom tier teams. I guess that's what he's referring to. But he used this to trying to make this situation coincide with the New Orleans Saints. And he says, so what does this have to do with the New Orleans Saints? He says, watching the Astros in the playoffs feel very much like it was to watch the 2019-2020 Saints. The 2018 Saints got robbed of the Super Bowl by fate. Bill Vinovich or Roger Goodell, whoever you want to blame, is definitely added something to view the Saints. The last 2 years of Drew Brees, that for me at least, made games more stressful. So he's alluding to, you knowing that Drew Brees was at the twilight of his career. And because Drew Brees was here, Drew Brees gave us the best. He gave us the best chance of winning it all. And he says, I wanted that Super Bowl for Drew, for him, for the Saints, and for us as fans. As Saints fans, we knew the clock was rapidly ticking for Drew and a chance for another Lombardi hanging over those seasons. Like an anvil waiting to crush our faded hopes and dreams, eventually the anvil got dropped on us by none other than Tom Brady in the 2020 playoffs, and it was over. No second Super Bowl for Drew or for us. The 2021 Saints have none of those expectations attached to them. I wouldn't say they are more fun to watch, but it is a different experience. There is a lightness to rooting for the 2021 Saints. Ralph, I have to disagree with you, my friend. There is no lightness, not to me. Okay, not to me at all, because I don't fall into that category where other people fall into, like the people that think that Drew Brees was the is all and the be all of the New Orleans Saints. Now, you can make that argument around 2009, 2010, maybe even like 2016. He was the is all and the be all of the New Orleans Saints. But over the last 4 to 5 years, I really have to believe that the New Orleans Saints were a good team, even if Drew Brees wasn't there. And they proved that over the last 2 years. This isn't like this isn't wishful thinking or even an educated guess. You watched this for 9 games, and you've seen the New Orleans Saints win 8 games and lose 1 when Drew Brees was not in the lineup. So that tells you right there that the Saints are a well-coached, well-organized team, that even their star player, their star quarterback, and Drew Brees can go out and they still can do enough to win. So, I mean, I don't feel like it's any different than, some of the things that we dealt with when Drew was injured for those 9 games. So I gotta say that I kind of disagree with what he's saying right here. And he also says, hold on, let me go. I'm gonna scroll back down a little bit. He says they aren't winning a Super Bowl because they are a deeply flawed team. They rank 31st in passing yards per game and are last in the NFL in creating explosive offensive plays. Explosive plays are run of 15 or more and passing of 20 or more. The Saints at the moment probably couldn't kick a field goal if their lives depended on it, and their pass rush is non-existent. Now, I'm not going to lie about that. The last few points that he made, I agree with. They can't kick to save their mama life, but Will Lutz is on his way back, and the pass rush has left a lot to be desired. But I feel like with the addition of Davenport coming back and Davion Yamada, maybe that'll be able to help the Saints when it comes to the pass rush. But the fact that he said the Saints aren't winning the Super Bowl, I wish I can sit up here and say I know that for sure, but I don't. Okay, I really don't. All I know is that the Saints are a much better team than people give them credit for. And the fact that the Saints are 3-2 at this particular spot speaks volumes of how good this football team actually is. I cannot believe people don't look at this and see this. I cannot believe this. I cannot believe that people sit up here and just say, oh man, this is not a good football team. Good football teams find ways to win in spite their circumstances. Okay. In spite, you know what I'm saying, the fact that you have your star wide receiver down, the fact that you lost your Hall of Fame quarterback, the fact that you're not getting a pass rush. The way that the Saints are structured right now and the way that they're actually winning speaks volume to how good this football team is. And any team can catch hot, you know what I'm saying, can get hot at the right time. I mean, we think about some of these teams of the past, right? We think about the New York Football Giants. I mean, the New York Giants, that time when they won the Super Bowl back in 2007, they weren't a team that I don't even know if they had double-digit wins. I want to say they were like 9-7. They went to the playoffs. They had to play all their games on the road, and they still found a way to find themselves into the Super Bowl and to knock off the undefeated New England Patriots team. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe, you know what I'm saying, I want to say maybe that was in 2007, but I remember them going to the playoffs, and maybe it was no, I take that back. I think it was the year where the New Orleans Saints lost to the 49ers. Yeah, it was, because I was upset. Because I was upset that the Saints lost that game to the 49ers because the NFC Championship game would have been at home, because the 15-1 Green Bay Packers lost to those Giants. So, yeah, that's right. That's right, because the Giants ended up winning the Super Bowl against the Patriots that year. But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make here is any team can get hot at the right time. So to say that the New Orleans Saints don't have a chance to win the Super Bowl or a chance to make a run at it in the playoffs, I just feel like that's not completely accurate here. You know what I mean? Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I do feel like the Saints have a better chance than any of these other teams out there. I mean, you don't have Michael Thomas yet. You don't have Will Lutz yet. You don't have David Ayamada yet. Davenport, Quan Alexander, Eric McCoy, Teron Armstead. I mean, the list goes on and on here. Traquan Smith, and you won 3 games out of 5 with those guys being out. Yeah, I mean, just thinking about those guys and reading off those names, you're like, man, those guys are big, huge contributors to this team. So for me to say, I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl or they're not going to the Super Bowl, I can't say that, because any team can get hot, and at the right time, and they can make a run of it. So he says, Sean Payton has fully embraced what the Saints do well: play great defense and run the ball, and focus like a laser on limiting turnovers to get the Saints to 3-2. Plus, all the Saints' issues might be cured if they get key players to return healthy. So he did mention that, right? Them being 3-2, right? Them being 3-2, in spite of the fact that, they're second to last in passing, they're doing what they do best. They're playing good defense, and they're using Alvin Kamara. They're running him, in between the tackles, and they're trying to control the time of possession and limit turnovers. Jameis Winston is a flawed quarterback, but I admit he's been way more fun to root for than I expected. Winston is that friend who is overly positive and should ignore me to death, but somehow doesn't. How can you not love a guy who throws "you only live once" passes and Hail Marys, and after the game says that was all God? He's a delight. I'm not sure I want him as the Saints quarterback long term, but this one-year adventure with Jameis has been fun so far. For the first time in a long time, we are watching Saints football without any real expectations. It's less stressful on me, and I sort of dig it. So there's a lot more that you can read from Ralph Malbrough in that article on WWL.com. But look, I just feel like, once again, and I know I'm kind of beating the drum here over and over again, but I just feel like Jameis Winston is the most scrutinized quarterback I've ever seen in my life. Like, it is so insane, like the way people just analyze this guy. And it's hard for me to sit here and believe that people are really objectively looking at this guy based on what he's doing in the Saints uniform. Like, maybe we're a prisoner of the Saints' former success at quarterback. And maybe it's hard for us to look at anybody that doesn't give us or presents to us the play of a Drew Brees. All I'm saying is it's hard for me to analyze this guy as a New Orleans Saint if people are telling me, oh man, 30 for 30, 30 for 30, 30 for 30. It's in the back of my mind. It's in the back of my mind. And I have no choice but to take that into consideration. If you're looking at the New Orleans Saints, seriously, let's look at it like this. Okay. I want you to put your hand behind your back, just like I'm doing right here. This is what I want you to do. And I want you to bend down if you have a pair of shoes on, and I want you to tie your shoe. Okay. Now, I'm pretty sure you can do it. I'm pretty sure you can. Couple tries, you're probably going to do it. But try to do that with one hand. Try to do it with one hand. The point that I'm trying to make is this. Jameis Winston is limited. It is hard for me to analyze and look at this guy when you don't have a number one, don't have a number two receiver, when you're trying to learn an offensive playbook, when you're still trying to develop, a trust factor and a trust element between you and your head coach. It is hard for me to really sit up here and say, oh, this guy is not the future of the New Orleans Saints. I can't say that. I can't say that. It's hard for me to say that, what I'm saying, like this guy isn't it. And I don't understand how anybody can say this guy isn't it if you're looking at what he's actually doing right now. He has 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 13 total touchdowns, if you count the run that he had against Carolina, and only 3 interceptions. If your issue is that Jameis Winston, has been turning the ball over at an alarming rate, then, you shouldn't even have that problem because he's not turning the ball over at an alarming rate. And you can't get mad at him and say, oh, he's leaving a lot to be desired if your issue is he's turning the ball over. So what do you want Sean Payton to do? Do you want him to throw the ball 40 times? I mentioned this on the last show. If he threw the ball 40 times and he threw for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, like would you look at him as being a good quarterback, or would you still feel the same way? The Saints are finding ways to win, and that's all you need. You just find ways to win. Good teams just win, okay? It ain't like, I get it, man, like how people present the NFL, like they have these star football players like the Mahomes, like the Aaron Rodgers, and they have this unlimited arm talent. Like there's this video going around right now about Patrick Mahomes rolling to the right and slinging the ball, across his body on a line. I get it. But what they're not telling you is for the last 15 games, Patrick Mahomes has like 15 interceptions. So all that stuff is like great, right? It's great to watch. It's good to put on video. We rewind and we watch it over again. But still, is it producing results? Are they winning football games, right? Or is it like you're winning your fantasy football game? All right, if you're winning your fantasy football game, cool. But at the same time, are you generating success? Are you finding success at this? The Saints are finding success by putting Jameis Winston, like, I don't want to say in a box, but kind of like just keeping him reserved. Throwing the ball 20 to 25 times a game. He's throwing maybe, 2 to 3 touchdowns a game, and he's limited in his mistakes. So if that was your issue with Jameis Winston, why are you complaining? Why are you complaining? Because other quarterbacks throwing for 300 yards, are they winning? That's what I'm saying. Are they winning? Do they have a really good touchdown to interception ratio? Why are they throwing for 300 yards? Are they throwing for 300 yards because their defense isn't good? Are they throwing for 300 yards because they're in the zone? I mean, what is it? We got to put these things into context. I have no problem. The way that Jameis Winston is playing right now. Now, are there some times where, he can, throw the ball in a wrong spot, or he might make the wrong play from time to time? Absolutely. But I'm not going to hold it against him and say this guy is a bad quarterback. I just feel like Saints fans, we're spoiled. For 15 years, we had stable quarterback play. We knew what we were going to get. The quarterback position was never in question. It was always some other position outside of the quarterback position. And we always knew that we were going to have number 9 to take the field, run through the smoke, and throw for 200 to 300 yards and make average receivers look like they're above average. But it takes time, okay? Once upon a time in 2006, Drew Brees was not the Drew Brees who we marvel and look at today. He was a guy who was still trying to find himself as a quarterback. He was a quarterback with a bum arm. I'm just calling for what it is. He was a quarterback that got benched, you know what I'm saying, by his former coach. And he was a guy who was given up on by organization for a guy who was 6'5" and 230 pounds in Phillip Rivers. So it took some time in order for Drew Brees to create this mystique about himself, being the most accurate quarterback, being an all-time leading passer for a short amount of time before Brady broke his record a couple weeks ago. It took some time for him to get to that point. And we act as if Drew Brees just jumped off a turnip truck and was just automatically an elite quarterback, and that's just not the case. We can be talking about Jameis Winston years down the line being one of the best, succession plans ever. But we don't give ourselves an opportunity to do so because we're looking at what he does in Tampa and we're critiquing him based on what would, how they say WWJD is WWDD. You know what I'm saying? What would Drew do? What would Drew do in that situation? That's how we're looking at it. But I am not looking at it that way. I understand that Jameis is not Drew. And as soon as you realize that Jameis is not Drew, you will feel a lot better. And as far as the expectations, I completely disagree. And maybe this is just me being a homer or me just being a Saints fan, but I never will be content at phoning it in. Okay. I will never be content at just phoning it in. And you can talk about some of these other players and you can talk about some of these cap issues. But if you really look at the New Orleans Saints and how they've been structured, the fact that they've had a really good front office, a really good scout team, and Jeff Ireland and Mickey Loomis and crew, and Terry Fontenot when he was here. Now he's the GM of the Falcons. The Saints do a really good job at finding talented players, not only early in NFL drafts, but later in NFL drafts. They found Trey Hendrickson. They found Alvin Kamara. They found Paulson Adebo. They found all these different guys who contribute right away for the New Orleans Saints late in rounds. And, these guys were handling their business. You can even put Alex Anzalone in there. Some people will get upset with Alex Anzalone, but he was okay for a guy that got drafted in the 4th round. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, another guy who was drafted late, is a guy that a lot of people respect. So for me to feel like, Drew is gone, all hope is lost, I feel like that's not the approach that I want to take, because good teams, in my opinion, they draft really well. They find the right players that are good in the locker room. They find, very young, like players with potential, and they combine that with a few free agents and good leadership, and they go out there and play. And that is how the Saints have been structured. And that's how I feel like the Saints are going to be post Drew Brees. And I think they're going to be a successful football team. I don't think the Saints are as bad as people think that they are. And honestly, I'm kind of happy that the Saints, a lot of Saints fans and people that watch the Saints look at the team like that. I'm glad that they feel like the expectations are lowered. I'm glad that they feel like, the Saints don't have what it takes to be a playoff team or to knock off Tampa or make any noise in the playoffs, because it makes for a true underdog story if they do. So I'm not mad at Ralph for feeling that way. I understand that when it has been years and people have been telling you that Drew Brees is the reason why the Saints are successful and he's no longer there, you probably would buy into that narrative of, the Saints are not going to be good anymore because Drew is not here. I failed to realize that. I think that the New Orleans Saints are a really good, solid football team. And I think as long as they continue to draft the way that they do, and they have guys like Kyle Harley running the books, I think the Saints will be just fine. But I would love to hear from you. What do you think about the Saints' key injuries? And also, what do you think about the New Orleans Saints and the expectations for the 2021 season? Have you lowered your expectations? Do you think the expectations are the same? Comment down below, like and share this video. This has been the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com, search The State of the Saints podcast. Also, facebook.com, search The State of the Saints podcast. And previous episodes available on iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, as well as Anchor FM. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?